I love that song by Bruce Springsteen. It's called Born in the USA. It reminds me of being born in the USA, and I don't want to listen to any other of the lyrics in the song. So, this is part 2 of our 2020 election special. I'm Jemjenk. Welcome to part 2 of our 2020 election special. I'm Jemjenk. In this video, I'll be answering your questions from part 1 of our election special. But first, let me give a couple announcements. First, November 3rd, Tuesday, is Election Day. There's still time to vote before November 3rd, to vote on November 3rd, and to vote after November 3rd. But your window is very short to be voting afterward. You've only got a year or two, and you got to be really sneaky. And you can give your ballot to someone on the street, and they should be able to, you just have to whisper, like, get this to the right people. And then the street people will be like, I will get it to the people that need it. So let's get into some questions from part 1. So before I start, though, I do want to say I should not be the only person that you get your political news from, your information from. You should have a variety of sources that, spread the political spectrum. Like, for example, I do not just get my news from Huffington Post every morning scrolling through, because that is, it's a left-leaning news outlet. So I personally like to get my more right-wing news from guys like Joe Rogan, and I'll get my left-wing news from guys like Joe Rogan. So let's get into some questions. Knights Husseini asks, last election there was a lot of talk about her emails, but I've seen very little discussion this time around. What do you think the candidates are emailing about, and why are they? So this is, of course, famously referring to her emails, her being Jill Biden. So if you don't remember, in 2016, Jill Biden got her 15 minutes of fame when she received a bunch of emails that were intended for former Vice President Joe Biden. Their names are so similar that people accidentally sent her classified emails, classified things that include like documents, numbers, classifications of different items. And so Jill Biden, said, mea culpa, my fault. I didn't mean to have the similar name to Joe Biden. But see, if you say their name so quickly, it sounds like it's the same person. So the public was like, okay, Joe Biden, Jill Biden, Joe Biden, Joe Biden, Joe Biden, Joe Biden, Biden. We understand. We're not sheeple. We will not cancel you. In fact, now you have to marry Joe Biden so that we don't make this mistake again. And so now they share a joint email account. So that should answer that question. Next question is from Elaine Bennis. The Elaine Bennis. She says, would you support the elimination of the environment due to the difficulty in maintaining it? So this is a question, I get it. I get where you're coming from. I'm personally someone who, I live near environments. So I get it, I get it. I personally support the elimination of the belief in the environment. If nobody believes in the environment, then nobody can get all huffy puffy when a little bit of dirt and grime ends up in the river. If a few fish turn belly up, is it really the end of the world? Yes. All right, the next question is from James Dean Hickman. He asks a very long question. Let's move on. RadPlayer5 asks, in the video you said that you voted for third party. What are the beliefs and policies of third party? So I will say I'm not a card-carrying third party member. I just wanted, look, if you know me, you know that I've always supported the underdog. Why? Because I was the underdog. I was just like you. You know, nobody liked me. You can relate. And I was never the first party guest. I was never the first person on a list to be invited to a party. I was never the second person. Because people know that if I'm not invited to a party, if I see pictures of that party on social media, I will publicly make comments saying, that's a dumb party that I'm not at. Why did you not invite me? Is unprofessional. And so I wanted to vote third party because, look, I've been there. I was not the first party guest before. I was not the second party. But I'm usually within the top. Of any group I'm ever in, I'm usually at least the third most popular person in that group. So that should answer that question. Let's move on to Jose Corona's question. What do you think a president should be eating? This is a great question. And I think a better question would have been, when do I think a president should be eating? And I think that is daily. But you know, Dr. Fauci, he said, at first he said presidents should be eating every day. Now he says presidents should be eating daily. I mean, what is it? What is it with this guy? I have a very great relationship with him, though. We have a great relationship. We get along. But he actually is really, really, really idiot. Joel Anderson asks, why should I vote, Jem? What's in it for me? Well, Joel, maybe this is your first time voting. Maybe this is your first time voting. Maybe you've never voted before. And let me tell you one reason why. Every time you vote, you get one of these. A very useful wax paper square. So you can use this for all kinds of things, arts and crafts. You can cover up very small amounts of things in the microwave so that it does not splatter onto microwave roofs, so that mom does not get mad. So there's really the only reason you need. Owen Johnson asks, will the presidential election be on November 3rd every year? If third party loses again in 2020, will I consider backing fourth party for president in 2021? You know, I try not to get too far ahead of myself and think like, okay, 2020 is a wash. Let's think about 2021. But the good thing about our country is that nobody has lifetime appointments in government, except for the Supreme Court justices. But everybody knows that when you are deathly old, you make the best decisions. And that is a time-honored tradition that we will never break. So that should answer that question. Rayan Khan asks, Jem, can you describe the Maine political parties? I have never been to Maine, and I will never go to Maine. And I think that nobody in Maine should vote. They should have all their electoral colleges voters exterminated. But let's talk a little bit about the major political parties, which might be what your question was getting at now that I read it again. So in the US, we're blessed to have a multitude of political parties. For example, we have two. There's the Democratic Party and the Republican Party, and then there's the Republican Party. And I guess a quick explanation, especially for viewers who are maybe foreign and not familiar with our political system, they are best described by looking at their symbols. The Republican Party, of course, has the elephant, and the Democrat Party has the donkey. And so that actually harkens back to ancient times. Right now it's just, they're just a symbol. It's just a picture of an elephant, it's just a picture of a donkey. But in the past, those symbols were more than just symbols. In fact, in ancient United States history, at the dawn of our civilization in the late 1700s, there was no Congress as we know it. There were no law-making compromises as we know it, or as we would like to know it. What they did was the great founding fathers founded. That's why they're called the founding fathers. They all gave birth and then they founded this gladiatorial ring in which anytime they had disputes and differences and arguments, one side would put their elephant in and the other side would put a donkey in, and then those two animals would fight to the death. And every time the elephant won, because there's no chance a donkey would ever beat an elephant. And if you agree with me, leave a like button. And if you disagree, you can leave that like button. Press it, I mean. So eventually Democrats got a little wise to this, and they thought, you know what? I'm thinking I don't want the elephant in my donkey. And so they decided to end that practice, which is for the best. I think everyone can agree on that. And they decided to go with our more modern system that we have now, which is having people talk. All right, let's move on. Truly Tracy 1 asks, if we don't have an election result by midnight on election day, what should we do? So that's a question that a lot of people are asking: is what do we, if we don't have an election result by midnight on election day? What should we do? What that means basically is they did not receive your vote. So like I said before, keep voting until you get a result. If you voted for one of the options before, like Donald Trump, and you find out that there's no election result on midnight of November of 11:59 p.m. November 3rd, then clearly you made a mistake and you got to go back and you got to vote for Joe Biden. And vice versa, if you voted for Joe Biden and there's no result, then you got to go back and you got to just really rethink everything. You got to think about what's important to you. You got to think about who you are as a person, and maybe even go third party and vote for Joe Biden. Let's look at this last question from Greg Brunel. Jem, I don't think people should bother voting. With millions of votes out there, I think our votes are meaningless. I've heard that before. This election, we should just skip the voting process and go straight to the polls. What are your thoughts in general about things such as these? Greg Brunel, that's a great question. And it's a question that a lot of young people ask me. They say, Jem, I don't think people should bother voting. With millions of votes out there, I think our votes are meaningless. This election, we should just skip the voting process and go straight to the polls. What are your thoughts in general about things such as these? Greg, that's a great question, and I get that a lot from young people. Young people are the youth, and they will be older in the future. Everybody knows this. That's how time works. It's concluded. There's no science that needs to be happening about that. No more experiments. Enough experiments have been done on young people over time. They get older. Done. We don't need to argue that. Everybody knows it. So I think everybody should go vote, whether you want to or not, especially if you don't want to, because sometimes, as I think Galileo once said, look at that. And sometimes you got to really think about what he meant. In this context, he probably meant, look at that. It's democracy in action. And with that, I hope we all enjoy our great, big, beautiful freedoms, and we vote in this election. Whether you vote for one candidate that totally sucks, or you vote for a candidate that is named Joe Biden. But of course, change happens at the community level. So find out who's running in your local elections, do your research, educate yourself, find out which candidate has the least support from the Nazis, and then vote for that candidate. Honestly, you could probably just go to the polling station, get one of these stickers, and just, tell your coworkers that you did vote. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope this cleared some things up, and I hope you have a great day. God bless these United States of America.